Welcome to another episode of the Two Act Podcast. I'm your co host, Adi. For today's episode, I'm not joined by my other co host, John, who's on a much needed break at the moment, but we have a very special guest. I'm joined today by my close friend, Tao. Welcome to the show. How you been?
Thank you, Adi. Good. I've been okay. Been busy working. How are you?
Great. Well, I just want to say thanks for joining, and we're very excited to do an episode today from a recommendation that you picked. We're going to be talking about this science fiction show that came out on HBO Max and later got dropped and picked up by Netflix. It's called Scavengers Reign. John, John. I'm so I'm
John.
so I'm so I'm
Not
so
John. I'm John.
I'm so used to talking to John here. His spirit still looms around here in this room. No, Tao, you and I, we go way back, and our love for science fiction, is like we've been diehard fans about sci-fi and TV shows
Absolutely.
and movies. And what's your before we do talk about the show, like what's your sort of take on it? Like how passionate are you about science fiction, and how much has it like compelled or inspired what you do?
Okay, yeah. I'll try to be brief because I kind of sometimes I lost in my own train of thoughts. But big sci-fi fan since I was a kid. Started. I think the first sci-fi film I ever watched was The War of Worlds, starring Tom Cruise in it. I think that's probably the first sci-fi film I ever watched. And then 2001, probably 2001, Space Odyssey. I'm not sure
Oh,
which one
that
comes.
that's kind of
Yeah,
like that's like the mecca of all science fiction movies for me.
yeah, but I
2000.
don't think. Yeah, I think 2001, Space Odyssey is like that's way too early when I was before I started to remember things clearly. I think I remember watching it on TV. I didn't understand what the hell was going on. I
Nor
remember
did
it
I
being,
the first 5
yeah,
times.
no. Yeah, I felt a bit scared and shit watching it when I was a kid, but then after revisiting it, it's like a totally different experience. But the first, probably like film like I remember was Tom Cruise, the alien invasion film. Who
Tom
made it?
Cruise, a global
Yeah,
icon, made
yeah,
president of movies,
yeah,
president of movie. Yeah,
yeah.
I remember watching that movie as well. I think it was. I'm not sure. Was it made by Michael Bay? Could have been made by Michael Bay. War
Uh,
of the Worlds. War of
Steven
the World.
Spielberg. Steven
Is it
Spielberg.
Spielberg?
It's a Spielberg film.
Oh, right. Well,
It's a Spielberg film.
that's kind of an insult then to say that the movie could
Oh
have
my
been directed by Michael Bay when it's made by Steven Spielberg. Oh
God.
my god.
One
But
of the at its peak, but it
yeah,
wasn't rated super high though. But it gave me this. I had this like it's VFX. It's like I haven't because I don't think I've ever seen any big American like a Hollywood American film before that. And then I watched it when I was a kid, primary school. I remember as at my grandpa Juan's place, and then I was shocked. It was like, the quality of that is so bad, but still, like you're shocked by VFX. That's why
no, but back then it was something,
I
back
know. I think that's one of the reasons that I joined the film industry and started working in VFX for many years, and probably that's one of the reasons that kept me going. And then I started writing my own sci-fi, read a lot of sci-fi, and then and worked on not sci-fi, but worked on a lot of films related to film and visual effects, and that's how I
Could you
got
name a
in.
few?
I worked on VFX in Little Mermaid, some other stuff. Let me think. Probably.
Certified box office hits. That's what you
That's actually not much. I've worked a lot of small stuff, and then haven't got much opportunity to work on big stuff with a lot of documentaries and TV shows. Small stuff. I don't want to mention them. Some of them are not out yet. And then our industry got hit by this writer's strike in the US and long lasting for like 2 years against AI and until it's got bad from it started to get bad since 2023, 22 or 23 and then
sounds
24.
sounds like a Sounds like a
Yeah.
horror sci-fi movie, the way you describe it.
Yeah, it's a bit bizarre, like to be in like the industry crisis like this, but then we have the crisis everywhere now. It's not only VFX, and we're just uh, just unfortunate to be part of it. It's just like a lot of people like me. I know it's like so many more people. They're more qualified and they're than me about film and TV and sci-fi. They're out of job and they're struggling. And yeah, I don't know how to comment on this, but
No, it is. I mean, it is kind of, I mean, difficult, the state of the film industry, and that's partly why, like, I mean, I like doing this podcast because I want to talk about content. I want to talk about stories that you know may have perhaps not received the the sort of acclaim or the attention or the viewership it deserves.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
and that is again a reflection to people who've like worked really hard to tell these stories. Some may be big, some may be small, and this, which is why you make a compelling guest for us, for me to have you here, and also about the story that we're going to be talking about, the show Scavenger's Reign, created by Joe Bennett and Charles Hutner, if I'm getting that correct.
How to pronounce his
I'll
name.
give you Hutner. No, I don't know. It kind of sounds German, but I'm not gonna speculate. I'll give you an introduction, and then uh, we'll go with opening thoughts and why I'm very curious to know why you picked this. So I've got a brief synopsis here. Scavenger's Reign is a mesmerizing and merciless world of sci-fi adult animation series created by Joe Bennett and Charles Hutner, originally premiering on Max, like I said, and later finding a home on Netflix. This show follows the scattered survivors of a crashed deep space freighter as they fight to endure on the alien planet Vesta, a stunning yet deadly ecosystem teeming with bizarre creatures and symbiotic horrors. Drawing inspirations from classics like Mobius and Studio Ghibli, but with a darker, more visceral edge. Scavenger's Reign isn't just an animation, it's a haunting exploration of survival, symbiosis, and humanity's place in an uncaring universe. If you're into mind bending sci fis, which I guess we both are, this makes a very interesting show to talk about. And I'm actually very glad you recommended this show because I had absolutely no idea this show exists before you told me about it.
I'm actually curious to know how you feel about it because it's it's very uncommon to have something like this. What's your?
Oh,
I don't. I
yeah.
actually want to what your thoughts are.
No, absolutely. I mean, so going into this, when you told me about it, I was quite struck by the art style. Just
Hmm.
looking at images when I looked it up, I just thought, okay, this is interesting. It's not very common to see this sort of art style, and the fact that it was a mature animation. So I gave it a go, and I must say, like, I found this to be a very hypnotic, a very disturbing yet like beautiful watch. It has this
Mm.
like quality to it that can like disarm you into like being into the world of Vesta, this ecosystem of like fertile fauna and flora and all these incredible character designs and world building. And at the same time, it's so terrifying. It's so primal. It's got
It's
this
a
like,
horror. It's a
yeah,
horror. I
it's a
Yeah.
horror for sure. And I must say, like, my opening initial like impressions watching like the first 4 episodes, looking at it, like, it doesn't do anything groundbreaking with its concept because I could name so many other sci-fi stuff that I've seen that involves, transporting a colony or looking for a new planet that could
Hmm.
perhaps be the future of civilization. We've seen movies that involve, going into a new planet. which is always a bad idea. Like the Alien movies, for example, they're probably the most famous references. But I thought what was interesting for me was like it's not it doesn't try to do anything groundbreaking with its concept, but what it does groundbreaking, what I did find very compelling was how it creates this ecosystem of where the planet is, where these, the leftovers of these people from the ship, the Demeter, end up in, and how they interact with ecosystem in the planet Vesta, the alien life in the planet Vesta. I thought that
Mhm.
was like what really invigorated me. Looking at how both of them interacted, how the humans had to like adapt and almost collaborate with the life forms in the planet, and like what it kind of does. You got like a few characters in the show.
Mm.
I think the main 3 or 4 characters are Sam and Ursula. Sam, the commander of the Demeter.
The
You got
captain.
like
Yeah.
the captain. Yeah, Ursula is like horticulture worker in the lab of the Demeter, and you got Azzy, who's like a cargo specialist with her AI robot Levi. And then
Levi. Yeah.
you got like Caiman, who's a crew member on the Demeter, who's again a very interesting character. So you got like these 4 characters, and the story kind of revolves around 4 of them
Mm.
who are all at individual points in the world, and they're trying to get back to the Demeter. You know, Sam and Ursula managed to trigger an emergency landing, and they're using their tech to navigate their way back to the
Well,
Demeter, where
their
they hope
tech.
yeah, where
Yeah,
they hope
their tech. Yeah.
yeah,
It's like
where they
they
hope to
combine the aliens and alien like biomaterials and connecting to their tech, and not it's
yeah,
like half their tech, half their like they're just the local resource, and which is weird.
which is what I said about like, it's so interesting that there's so much niche, intricate detail in the world building, and how that ecosystem, which is so hostile and beautiful at the same time, affects these human characters, and how the humans affect the world
Mm,
of the West as well. Because we'll talk about that with Cayman, and what sort of relationship he develops with a very particular creature in this show that
mm,
ends up becoming one of the antagonists. But
hollow.
enough about the Hollow, yeah. But enough about me. I want to get your opening thoughts. Like, what was your, what's was your opening or initial reactions
I
when you watched?
Okay. No, first I want to say how much it. Okay, before I start, I had to say how much appreciated be on this podcast because I've been a very big loyal listener, and I
You're our only listener. What are you talking about?
not really, not really. I'm pretty sure there's thousands of people out there actually listening to this, but I've been. It's a great pleasure to be on this, and then
No,
finally
it's a pleasure to have you
participate.
here. I mean, we're really grateful you could join me for this, and hopefully we can do another one with John around. So we get the 3-act podcast going.
That'd be exciting. Though you had that with Hex. Hex? Was it Hex?
Hicks,
I
yeah,
remember his name.
Hicks
Hick.
joined us.
Hick.
Alien Romulus. That was a pretty memorable episode we did a
Oh
year
yeah.
ago. But
That was good. I
yeah,
still remember that. Yeah, my opening thoughts. It's a bit complicated because have you seen the short version, which is the 2016 Scavenger a short film that those two, Joe and
and Charles Hüttner. No, I
Charles.
didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't watch it, but I did read about it. Yeah, that
Yeah,
it
it's
was it
only
was
seven
based
minutes
off of.
long. Yeah, it's only 7 minutes on. I think it's an interesting watch because I watched that series first. Though no, so no, the reason. Okay, so how? Okay, let me explain how I got here in the first place. So I remember I was at a dinner. Me and my wife were watching. I was like, okay, let's watch something. So I put on. So I want to watch sci-fi. I saw this sci-fi show on. I think it's Amazon. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I got some cool concept and starring Pedro Pascal. I was like, okay, let's watch it. It's called.
Starring in literally everything today, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I'd really want to shit on this film, but I will. I'm probably gonna shit on this film now. It's called Prospect, 2018, and it's got such a cool, such a nice graded color grading, such a cool prop and set design, mise en scène, whatever how you call it. It's so cool. The props and the concept is so cool, but the story and the plot and the acting is a little bit awkward, and it doesn't make any sense. And I kind of the film, I just drifted away. I couldn't continue, and I consider it's a very bad experience. But when like halfway through the film, I found like, oh, there's something they're harvesting. They're landed on the alien planet that they think, and then run into this crew, and they're just trying to cut through this planet like disgusting, like sticky thing and liquid flowing out, and they get something. This thing they've been harvesting layer by layer. I was like, oh, that's cool. That's interesting. And then my wife, she's there, is like, oh, this is actually inspired by a short animation. I was like, what do you mean inspired? She's like, this is exactly the same thing that they did in the animation. It's called Scavenger. I was like, okay, I don't believe you. And then we just paused the film, and she just put on a YouTube because that film you can just watch anytime. It's just called Scavenger, posted by I think it's Joe's or Charles, Charles, forgot his name.
Charles
Is it
Twister. Yeah.
Charles? The YouTube. It's you can just watch it there. It's only 7 minutes, so we watched it, and I didn't feel that was like a 7 minutes animation. I feel like it's an hour. It's how I was so amazed by that short animation. It's just so much going on. It's pretty much like you have the entire Scavenger season, the weird
In
stuff
seven
they've been
minutes.
in 7 minutes, which is crazy. I mean, they have all
So
the key
you
concepts. Yeah,
you could say it was the perfect sort of pitch film for this show to be made.
yeah, the series to be made. I think it's not a pitch. I think I think those two, they're very passionate about like animation and stuff. They've been doing other stuff as well. But then it won like rewards and stuff. It got a hit, like a big hit on the internet. But personally, I was like, wow, this is stunning. I mean, definitely, I can see. So this short film came out 2016, and then the movie Prospect came out 2018. So it makes sense. Kind of took the idea from them, whether they did or
So
not. But
how
it's
interesting is
obvious.
that you watched something which is a you could say a shitty B movie sci-fi that basically ripped off a short film that it ended up becoming this show Scavenger's Reign, which we're talking about now.
Yeah,
That's so fascinating.
yeah, which is crazy because I've never seen anything like it in my life in that 7 minutes. I was like my jaw just dropped the whole time. I was like, what the fuck am I watching?
Wow.
That's my reaction. What the fuck am I watching? You should watch it. It's only 7 minutes. But you have
Yeah,
already
no, I will.
seen Scavenger's Reign, so it won't surprise you that much. But you see so much they took from that short series, and they expanded to a whole show. And that 7 minutes animation, there's no dialogue, just two people. Basically, is the Ursula and just Sam. Their previous version, and in that they're very different. The art style is a bit slightly bit different, more hand drawn in the short one. Uh, Obviously the cost is like a lot lower, but it's like a pitch basically. But it's interesting. But basically you can see that's Ursula, that's Sam, but they don't have any dialogues. But then so that's come back to watching the series when I started the first episode and two because I remember watching it because my wife told me, oh, there's actually they made it into a Netflix series. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Let me watch it. So I watched first two episodes first. I was a bit uncertain because the pacing's a lot slower. Obviously,
It is.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
turn into a show, and then they started with the scene exactly how the short animation started. So they're doing this to get this, and do this to get that, do this to get that. Okay, that's just exactly how I've seen it in the short animation, and then the two characters start talking, and then you cut to another scene with the Ozzy and Levi. I was like, okay, well, there's another character. They're talking as well. There's a robot. They weren't in any of that before. which is was like okay, they're not talking, they're introduced, and then Cayman was introduced. I was like, okay, who are these characters? I was a bit confused. That's like three storylines. That's very ambitious. That's my thought. Yeah, that's very ambitious because I watched the short animation. It's like, why you don't have to do this. So I was very, what's the word? Skeptical about it at the
Right,
beginning.
right.
It was very
Hmm.
skeptical. So I only watched two episodes, and then I got distracted. Not until recently I rewatched. So we sit together. We moved out, moved our TV to the living room. It's like, okay, let's watch it. And then and then so I rewatched the first two episodes exactly how but then I started to pick up some details. But then it gets to episode three, got episode four. I was like, okay, this gets interesting. This is
It
this is
does.
not what I thought. And then it just gets deeper and just layered up. You can see it's like on an empty canvas, and you have a few brushstrokes, and then you have details flooding in, and you see the depth and of each
Oh, it's
character.
rich. It's rich with detail. I
Oh
mean,
my God.
the world building and visuals complement each other so beautifully. I was like, you know, I was amazed by how much depth they went into in creating all these creatures, all these different life forms with the fauna, with the flora, with the the insects, the creatures that are kind of similar to animals, I would say, but they're so different. You can't quite describe them.
Mm.
It's really
And
difficult to
words.
describe.
Yeah.
It actually is really difficult to describe these creatures. I think like you can make comparisons. You can say, "Oh yeah, that looks like a toad or whatever," but it really is something that you need to watch personally to understand like how ambitious it is with its world building and its aesthetic because I look at it, it's almost like a living graphic novel coming to life. uh
100%. It's very
and
accurate.
there's some scenes with the way they frame them, especially the wide shots where you see like the scale of how big the trees are, or how big like all the structures, all the living forms are compared to the humans, and it's almost terrifying. It's kind of it's got this prehistoric quality to it, but it's so it's so bold. And when you see these characters interact with the environment, and we'll talk about like some of the stuff that happens obviously, but like
Mhm.
I was very fascinated with it felt like there was this compulsive need to make sure that the environment of the planet Vesta always had something or some involvement with the characters at every given moment. It didn't quite often you watch, shows or movies about, oh, we've got to go into a alien planet. There's not that much emphasis on, the environment reacting with the characters. It's always like the characters are there because they need to do what they want to do. But here it really feels like, the planet itself is a character in this
Yeah.
show. It
It's
really
also
felt
very
that.
plot driven. It's also like plot driven that
It is very plot driven. And I think
you,
that's like
yeah.
it's a conscious choice because like I think like you said, it could have easily gone down that route of just having Sam and Ursula as the two main
Yeah.
human
Explore the
characters.
world.
Yeah, it could just be about them discovering how they can navigate their way back to the Demeter ship. I love all the Greek references, by the way. It's very relevant to the story.
Oh,
And
what Greek references? I wasn't. What's
oh, like the Demeter is like meant to be, if I'm not mistaken, the name of the goddess of agriculture, harvest, and fertility and seasons.
oh,
That's who Demeter is. And
know that. Okay,
yeah, yeah,
that's quite
and
cool.
it is, and there's also this reference of, I don't know if you know the story of Persephone, the goddess in Greek mythology who ends up going to the underworld and she's the daughter of Demeter. She ends up going to the underworld and eats a pomegranate seed in the underworld. And, once she does that, I don't know the exact story, but it's something to do with how that completely changes her and she can no longer go back
The
the
goddess of
way things.
spring.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
Persephone. And it's an interesting analogy comparison to this because you look at the characters who come to the planet Vesta and you see how once they do, it's almost irreversible that they change irreversibly because they'll never be the
Mm,
same. You'll see some characters go through, emotional or spiritual changes. Some go through physical changes, literally, because they're either, I don't know, infected or
yeah.
attacked by all the different parasites and flora and fauna in the show, and it's never the same. By the end of it, you look at these characters, they can no longer go back living the life they did. It's almost like they went to this other world and, took a bite of that pomegranate and then, you know, can never go back to the way things were before. So I really love all the deeper, these were some things that I was researching about, and I
Mm,
thought it was very intentional why they chose certain names and stuff like that. But I also, I really liked how it wasn't just that, but also it was very prescient with like certain storylines involving the robot, the AI intelligence, artificial intelligence, Levi, who I think
hmm.
for me had one of the best like character developments in the show.
Yeah.
I
Has a
don't know
full
what
arc.
your
Yeah.
has a really full circle moment and arc in this show that I thought was,
Yeah.
regardless of how you may feel about certain characters and whether they, got like proper development or whether they felt like unfinished stories, you could totally pick this one particular character and say that they completely got this, they nailed it on the head
Mm,
because, my first impressions were I didn't really think much of the character. I thought it would just be a serviceable character. I
mm.
didn't think that it would go as deep as it did with its story, and it's quite compelling. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen a story that takes, a robot and have it organically mutate uh
Yeah.
with whatever the flower that sort of
The
touches
white
it
flower.
and
Yeah, the white
the
lotus.
wildflower. Yeah, the white the white lotus. And the goo that it sort of excretes and it ends up like
Yeah.
touching Levi's circuit board and just, it makes it sentient, basically. Makes it capable of emotions and feelings. And yeah, it was interesting that it had that biological connection to it. So yeah, I was very interested by what that character went through. Going based off the first four episodes, I wasn't exactly blown away story wise by the first four episodes. I thought it was quite obvious what they were trying to do with the first four episodes. It seemed very straightforward that okay, they just happen to be here. They're all these. It's almost like you could watch or compare it to, I don't know, a TV show like Lost, where you got like these stranded characters trying to find their way back, and they all have some sort of a connection to each other because they were all on the same ship. But what really like got me off guard was like how the world of the West, and the environment of the West, the planet, it almost is like it's in your face, in a good way or in a bad way. There's no way you can disregard it. Sometimes you can watch shows and the environment doesn't really mean much because you're just looking at characters and what they're doing. But at every given scene, there's some creature, there's some, you know, flower, plant, or bacteria, or algae, or fauna, or flora, or some living being or like something that keeps like popping up at every corner. And it's almost like I was amazed. I couldn't keep up with like how much was going on with the way the environment was depicted. That was
Yeah.
like that's what like really kept me invested more
I think
so in the first.
I think the style was just derived directly from the show animation series. I still need to emphasize this. Maybe you should just watch it now while we're talking. But basically that's I think they had that, and then I think Netflix or sorry not Netflix is HBO
HBO
Max.
HBO Max picked it
I
up,
th Yeah, I guess the
and then
production
and then
say
they
they want
dropped
the
it.
same thing. Yeah, I think that's very sad. However, the season two is coming up. I mean, they're not renewed by Netflix, not renewed by HBO Max, but the I think Joe Bennett owns a studio, so he owns a studio called Green something. He has his own studio, but basically they're making the season two on their own,
Oh,
I
is it
believe.
because the what I read was that they got picked up by Netflix, which is where it streams right now, but there was no confirmation about having it renewed.
I just
So,
send a link that Joe Bennett posted on his Instagram. He says, "Oh, they're not renewed, but he said this is not the end. There's more story to be told. We are ready to make another season. Our produce in-house at Green Street. Yes, a teaser for what is going to come in the second season. So I think they're going to make their own. And if you watch the link I just dropped, that you have the visuals they made for season two, which is
oh
a lot of cool
wow.
concept in it. Yeah. If you, it's a teaser. Basically, just the link I sent you, so that they have some visuals
Yeah,
already
I'll be
made.
sure to link this on the footnotes as well for anyone who
Oh yeah,
wants to check it out. But that
for sure, for sure.
I'm so pleased. I'm surprised and I'm pleased to hear that because I think, I was looking at this show and I was thinking, wow, like it's the way, especially the way it ends.
Yeah,
I
cliffhanger.
feel like I feel like there's just so much that they could do with this. We still don't know what civilization's like. We still don't know what life is like on other ends, and this is just one aspect of the story, which is this planet, right? I mean, the opening title sequence is always the same. You see like the escape pods, you know,
Hmm.
crashing in the freighter crashing in to the planet. And you see the beautiful design of the planet from far, and it basically tells you that this is where the story is going to take place. But I was looking at like especially not just the ending, but also looking at how these characters are. And I was just wondering, like, there's so much more that was unanswered or can be explored. Like, who do they work for? What is the cargo? What they're trying to transport? Where is the colony going to be? What they're trying to do. So I'm really really pleased to hear that. I mean, that's great that that there's a possibility that it could get another season. But coming back to this, like, what was
Yeah.
your what would you say was like your opinion on like the characters? Because there were two characters who you knew from the short, which is Sam and
Hmm.
Ursula.
Hmm.
But was there any specific character that I think you were impressed by or that affected you?
I think all these characters are. I think that they're for a reason. I think it's a well designed because it really changed my mind in the end. Because you see the destiny of each character, and they're just so different. And there's a classic decision that they killed off the good guy, which is Sam, and then kept Cayman alive in the end, which is, you know,
Yeah.
it's so.
I
Uh,
do want to say that I was kind of like I was watching those first 6 episodes and I was looking at the amount of times Sam gets kidnapped, abducted, stabbed. fucking,
Oh my god.
what doesn't he go through? He basically goes through it all. He's basically
Unlucky. Very unlucky
there's
man.
how many, like, I was just looking at it and I was thinking, like, there's a point where he's nearly dead, then he's magically revived
So many times.
so many times, and it turns out that, there's a twist. He's revived because there's a living parasite inside of him, keeping him alive. I mean, I was just thinking,
God.
there's so many like twists and turns with his character, and I was just thinking, oh,
I
when are they gonna let the poor man die in peace? Like, he's just
I really want to do spoilers, but I don't even know where to
we're doing
start.
full we're doing full spoilers, by the way. I mean, anyone who
Yeah,
listens to our show would know that, but that's on you
yeah.
if you don't. Yeah. No, we go.
Uh,
Please go full spoilers. I mean, my only, like, I was annoyed by like how dumb these motherfuckers are, that they're openly like walking around and they're like, oh, look at this. This looks like a cute little pond. The next thing you know, the fucking thing stabs them, or stabs
yeah,
Sam more than anyone. I think he has the most,
yeah,
like, I don't know why. It's almost like he has the most punchable face in the planet Vesta. Don't you think?
yeah. I mean, dude, I think he was. It's so abnormal to have that everything is just so abnormal. It become a norm. You know what I mean? Do you get what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it just
Yeah.
everything is abnormal. I remember he's sick and he's by the phone, by the fire pit, and he was
Yeah.
sleeping. And he get
Yeah.
back to him. I was like, Ursula was like, "Hey Sam, I think there's something out there." And he just like turned over. Oh, there's always something out there. And he just flipped back. He was like, "There's always something out there in the goddamn place."
He's like, let's pray it doesn't show up here, and he goes to bed. And I was just thinking, yeah, the most like pragmatic, rational character in the series finally just gives in, and he's like, you know what, fuck it. If there's trouble lurking in the corner, just let it be. Don't go playing with fire.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Little did he know that there was a biological, sort of almost fucked up version of
Clone.
him, clone of
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
his self, lurking in the shadows. it's it's obstacle course after obstacle course, isn't it?
Yeah. It's I don't know where to start with their storyline is just I mean they're always trying to get from point A to point B. Basically, that's what they're doing.
Yeah,
That's it. It's like Sam and Ursula from point A to point B. That's all they want. And same with the other characters, but their like goal is very clear. They have a navigator on their hand. And it's like sometimes Ursula's, oh, I lost a signal. Where did I get the direction? Sam was just like teaches her. I was like, yeah, you just need to lock it and go. Ursula was like, oh, well, can you do it? But then going back to Sam, he was early, like I'm not sure what episode, like episode 3 or something. He was talking about, oh, he has this Ultron, and he had this dream. He dreamt of this skull. I can't remember. Is it a dream? That he actually saw there's a skull on the floor, and he said, "Oh, this is my omen. I'm gonna die on that day," and ended up dying. And then, but I think afterwards he's just revolved around his own death and his prediction of his own death, and you know, it just I think that at that point he already knew he's gonna die, and
yeah.
whether it's subconsciousness or consciousness, or he projected his
What
own
did you
fate.
think? Did you think he would make it?
No, I think when he mentioned that, I realized, oh shit, I think he's actually gonna die because I don't know. I don't know. I think it's like a thing, like a writing, like screenwriting thing. I'm not sure whether it's like how you tell stories, but it's a poetic thing to do that something happening in the future will have its
Yeah,
footprint
it's
like
somewhat,
in the past.
it's very common. I think it's like dramatic irony, and it's very common with like tragic stories. You know,
Yeah, but I think
classic
it.
tragic storytelling
Yeah,
is
definitely.
always like that.
But I think it
Achilles'
was.
heel
Yeah.
of Sam is that, he's aware of his own flaws, and he's aware of his own mortality. You
Hmm.
know,
Well, they
which
are
I
gonna
suppose.
die one way or another. and then because no one lives forever, like, until maybe you mutate into the, the the woman that
Oh man.
the
Let's we come
oh my
across a
god.
random mute woman who looks human, even though that there's 99.99% chance there couldn't be another human in this planet. But you know what? Let's just follow it. Let's just follow her. Let's just do what she's let's do what she wants to do
Yeah.
and hope for the best. And it really got me thinking about like human psychology in a
Hmm.
way that sometimes you get to a state when you're in a when you're desperate, you'll do literally anything to
Oh,
get what you
absolutely.
want, and if it means survival, you will do whatever it takes to survive. And that's exactly what they kind of have to do at certain points, even though I would say they're kind of naive. They're kind of like you know, stupid to do certain things, such as to fuck around and like want to go and touch that. And yeah, I mean, so many. How I've lost track of like the number of times they get attacked
Yeah,
by
by like random.
something.
Same with Ozzy. Same with the
Same with that,
the
yeah. Same with all the well, maybe not
other.
Cayman because Cayman is an interesting
Yeah.
example. I mean, you got here with Sam and Ursula, you got like characters who are like, okay, they're definitely the ones being affected by the
Hmm.
environment, right?
I think
With
these two are the only two normal people in in the entire
yeah,
trip. I think
s-
think they're yeah.
someone, yeah. I'd say Ozzy starts off as a very like closed off character that doesn't
Hmm.
like. I don't know what my first impressions are like. Okay, like I get like I get like what she wants and what she comes across as is someone who's just trying to survive, and she has this robot who's behaving in mysterious ways, but she doesn't come across as a very like likable character at first. But then I think I think Levi's death, in a way, if you call it a death,
It wasn't
kind of
that
like
because I we literally thought, oh shit, this is the end.
yeah,
Uh, that's
yeah,
it's very sad. It was like that the moment the the thing destroyed him, and
yeah,
then
yeah.
it was yeah. We get there. We get there, creature. But yeah,
Yeah, we'll
but
get to
sorry.
the well, and this is where I wanted to bring up Cayman's character, because I think like we spoke about how a lot of what makes a show unique is the way the human characters interact with the environment and the living forms in this planet. And I think you know, you see one side of the story with how the humans have to adapt. With
Hmm.
Sam and Ursula, they're constantly attacked, and
Hmm.
that's very like again, that's very difficult because it shows what they need to do to survive. And constantly be on the run. And then you got someone like Ozzy who shows adaptability. She adapts
Hmm.
because she has the tech, she has the robot, she has all these she literally has a motorbike in a way that is sort of like
Yeah.
a space bike that allows her to like, travel. So she's adapting to the environment, she's farming, they're growing resources. And then you've got Cayman. And Cayman's a very fascinating character because
Yeah.
with Cayman, he kind of represents the
A
worst of
lot of things.
humanity.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah, I
things, but I
agree.
think he represents like probably
The
the
evil in
worst.
us.
The
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not in yeah, sort of.
Sort
I
of.
think
Yeah.
what he does is like he comes across he comes across this creature who's sort of like I know I don't know if it was intentional or unintentional. This creature ends up saving him by sort of like waking him up from the pod and like saving him from nearly dying from a fall. And then he develops this weird. relationship with this creature referred to as Hollow, and this creature, basically just uses telekinesis and telepathic abilities to survive by getting like food it needs. But when it meets Sam and it enters Sam's consciousness because it can interact with with a human mind, it kind of changes everything because not Sam's character, Cayman's character, when it interacts with Cayman's brain, it changes everything because, you get to see the state in which Cayman is in. He
Hmm.
represents human greed and gluttony, and you can see how that sort of, you know, ends up impacting the way this creature ends up becoming. It just becomes like this Frankenstein monster in a way that just like grows and
It's
grows.
so scary. It's so scary. He kind of okay. So, but starting, it's so complicated. There's so many things I want to say about this. But the first thing that reminds me of was Akira. In the end, the no the main the antagonist
Oh,
that grow into this.
that's actually a wonderful comparison reference to make.
It just reminds me so much of that. It's the expansion of endless,
Yeah,
growing
yeah.
as a organ, or
Sort
I
of a
don't know.
mutation, isn't it?
Yeah, at the same time, it's like I don't I have it was a cute little thing. It's a bit scary at the beginning. It's climbing on a tree and it's fighting with its own kind, but it's basically controlling those little tiny creatures that get food for him, and that's about it. That's about it. And they're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
they're
That's
very
how it
peaceful.
survives. It's not a
Yeah.
violent. It's not a violent creature.
No.
It has abilities to control, mind control, and shift things with its telepathic abilities and telekinesis.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's nowhere near capable of like the sort of thing it gets introduced to once it sort of enters Sam's. I mean, I keep saying Sam instead of Cayman. Cayman's.
Cayman.
They both look kind of similar, I guess, with their beard and their hairstyle. But like Cayman, because like he's in a very like fractured state of mind. He's I think going through anger. He's going through loss. There's like a lot of guilt within this character. It's
I think
portrayed in
that's
a very
the
human
interesting.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's an interesting point that you just brought up about like especially I'm very impressed with the techniques of storytelling because every time the creature the hollow gets into his mind so to control him, basically it produced this image of illusion. It produced
Yeah.
like a sequence of image that
Yeah.
oh, you're in a safe place, your lover, your ex-wife,
His
what
girlfriend.
that
Yeah, his
his
girlfriend.
girlfriend his
Yeah.
girlfriend, and then we get into more into that. But basically, there's a fictional image, but the illusion that he can see, he can feel, he can interact. But then more further down into the story, the illusion basically the I think the writers they use this experience to tell the past to explain the backstory and what happened under the bitter and what caused the crash and everything. And then
Yeah.
I think it's very smart. It's a very very smart technique to tell to explain the story and to build the Cayman this character and from scratch, and that was very impressive. I was very impressed by that, and it's so much richer and it's so much layer about because at the beginning it was like, oh, this guy is crazy, he's
Yeah.
very unfortunate, got stuck on a tree, landed in a alien planet, he's going insane, you know. I thought, okay, this is a very pity character. I feel like bad
I
for
mean,
him.
it's
That's it.
interesting because when you see it, you don't realize that he's actually responsible for why everyone ends up in this planet because of something he does, which is
Exactly.
purely out of his own greed and out of his own sort of selfishness that
Hmm.
results. He literally, it's Icarus. He literally Icaruses the whole thing by flying too close to the sun, rerouting the ship too close to the sun against Sam's order, and it ends up, causing disaster. But I think like what's interesting is like when you see him at first, you kind of feel bad for him. You don't know exactly what he's been through, and it's almost like when you see this creature's capable of like literally feeding Cayman, feeding his consciousness, feeding his like emotion. There's so much lack in Cayman that he feels a sense of loss. You
Mm.
know, he's obviously a very flawed character, but the fact that this creature can like somewhat give him this sense of catharsis in a way where he feels like he can live the life that he never got
Mm.
through these illusions is very interesting. But while giving Cayman these illusions of his girlfriend interacting with him and reuniting with him, it also corrupts him and it corrupts the creature as well. And again, like you mentioned, it's a very inventive, or rather very smart way to also give you backstory, because there's no denying that, you know, backstory is something that there's no like way of like sugarcoating it, when you
Mm.
show backstory, it'll always be backstory. But I appreciate the way the show does this by using it through these two characters interacting with each other, because it says a lot about like how they form and how they become one, literally become one at one point,
Yeah.
and
And
form
he,
to be
he
the
became a
antagonist.
baby, and he became a baby. Like literally,
Yeah,
he attached how do you call that thing to his
yeah, he
belly
literally,
button?
yeah,
Uh,
literally, the umbilical cord
uh-huh.
was literally, yeah, it was literally
Plug
connected.
into him. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
I was
connected to
like,
him.
that's crazy. Just
It's
the
almost
whole
like it's almost
thing.
like he's hurting so much. Cayman's hurting so much because he feels like, there's one side of the story which is he is a very flawed character. He's very selfish. He
Hmm.
couldn't, he wasn't emotionally there, or he didn't sort of he put his work over his relationships, and his work was, not as fulfilling because perhaps he was too selfish. So there's a lot of things you don't like about him, but at the same time,
No.
he's hurting. And this creature is able to like almost care and mother for it. But in
Hmm.
doing so, it gets corrupted because it gets access to Cayman's greed. It gets access to Cayman's gluttony. When you see Cayman like, killing other creatures, starts off being small creatures to give it food, and then it
Hmm.
ends up being bigger and bigger and bigger. And then that results in the creature getting bigger and bigger,
I
almost
never thought
terrifying.
this thing grew like so big,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
it's
it gets
terrifying.
so scary. Like, yeah, it was like, oh my God, I,
I mean,
that
it
was,
it it it
yeah.
kind of like, again, it kind of like shows you what, like I mentioned, if Sam and Ursula were showing you how to survive, and if Ozzy was showing you how humans are adapting, this kind of shows you the worst.
Hmm.
What humans can do to their environment. Yeah, what they're capable of doing, which is like corrupting and making things worse. But it was again, it was very interesting to follow those three different narratives. I think Cayman is a very complex character for sure. You know, I don't think any of these characters are too likable.
No, they're
I
very
don't I don't
neutral, and
Very,
the other
yeah,
ones
they're
are
very
very.
neutral. I would say they're neutral rather than like likable. At least like Sam, I mean, at least like Ursula and Ozzy for me are like probably more likable than than the rest. But
Then all
it's
the
it's
male characters, they're more likable to the rest of the male characters.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I don't know. Maybe the show's feminist.
I don't know. Okay, so there's another detail I want to mention before we move on about Cayman. It's and Fiona. So basically, there's one scene that the illusion that the Hollow created for him. They're naked sitting on a bed, and they were hugging. So, oh, he's like, this is unusual. He said, and there was on a spaceship. The background is the stars, but then where they're hugging, there's a little detail that he is wearing a wedding ring on his hand. as is,
Oh, okay. I don't
and
think I picked that up.
but Fiona didn't have any.
Oh,
And then there's another memory. They're like sitting by the sunset. There's I say, "Oh, you got a job." If you're not asked, and then it's like, "Yeah," and said, "You should come with me. You should go on
yeah, they need
the
a
radar with."
robotics. Yeah, the robotics
Yeah,
division always needs
and
someone.
so I just start speculate. What's the relationship between them? It's like, are they girlfriends? Like boyfriend girlfriends? Are they ex husband wife relationship, or is he actually cheating? That brings me to the question. He's actually cheating with Fiona and shit. I don't know. It's just interesting. It's an interesting one, I think.
That's yeah, no, I mean, I gotta say, I did not like pick up on that reference, so props to you for noticing. I definitely felt at one point that they were married. It gave me
Mm,
more like a failed marriage kind of energy than it did girlfriend and boyfriend energy, because it
mm,
almost seemed like he was trying to like he had her in his life more than just a girlfriend, but like as an actual, you know, wife, an actual companion partner. But he wasn't able to like, you know, prioritize her over his work or his ambitions, which ends up ultimately, being his flaws. But I thought it was, yeah, I must say that I at one point I couldn't tell myself, I couldn't really tell the difference.
it's an
It almost
interesting one.
seemed like they were married to me at one point,
Yeah.
and and he was like just trying to maybe revive that relationship, you know. But I think it says a lot about his character for sure, and the motivations of his character. And I don't know. Do you feel sympathetic for Cayman?
Wow. That's a good question. I don't know. I
Because Sam
found it
clearly
interesting.
doesn't, right? I thought that was
Yeah, yeah.
I thought it was interesting that even though those two characters they only meet in the flashback, you don't see them meet when they're in the planet. But I thought it was interesting how Sam is aware of why this has happened, and he has that grudge against Cayman.
Yeah, I think the for me they're like plots that they're needed to I don't know whether the world comes first or the character comes first. I don't know, but I feel like all the male characters are created in this show to suffer, in my opinion. Look
That's
at
why I
the
said, is it a feminist show?
I don't know, but it's interesting because I think they were there to serve a purpose, to reveal things. I think they did the good job. Not to behave in a way, but to suffer, which is, interesting
Well,
point.
most of the, I mean, it's, well, we should talk about it. I mean, it might be controversial, but fuck it. I mean, like most of the male characters do end up suffering, because if you look at it,
Mm,
Sam ends up dying because you know, uh, he gets
well,
infected
infected.
by that
Yeah.
parasite.
In the end, yeah.
In the end, yeah, Cayman ends up becoming mute. I don't know. Maybe he just like his brain's just a vegetable now. Psychologically, after what he goes through, you look at the boy who gets like treated. I think his name was it
Barry.
Barry? Yeah,
The boy is a Barry, and then
the
the
boy's
the, the
Barry, and the dude Terrence ends up dying. He gets
yes, Terrence
brutally
died. Yeah, no,
brutally
and
killed. No,
well,
I think it's interesting. I mean, the male characters in the show, they kind of like, I don't know, they don't really have the best development for sure compared to some of the other female characters. I think Ursula is just consistent as a character.
mhm,
She comes across as a really like empathetic character who
yeah,
always sees the best in everyone and is
everything
trying
as
her
well.
in everything, yeah, and is trying to make the best of every situation. You got Ozzy, who I think definitely warms up more after Levi's death, and you do see that she does care about like not just surviving but also saving the rest of the people who are in the colony in cryo sleep. And you got like you know perhaps not Chris. I think Chris Chris ends up becoming a bit of a superficial villain in the end, but no, I think for the most part, like I would say like like, the female characters definitely shine, rightly so. And they all have very memorable interactions in this world. And there's
Mm.
one scene that I wanted to point out that absolutely caught me in a state of trance, like it did
Which
for
one?
Ursula.
Uh-huh.
It's a scene where they're going through that sort of forest where everything's like, you know, closing in. There are like these branches, or
Oh,
there's these weird
it's
like,
called The Wall. It's
yeah,
called The Wall, the episode. And then that's a giant wall structure. It's got no entry, but they figured out a way to make the structure to flinch, basically kind of like
yeah,
shrink.
yeah.
And
They
they
use
gave a
this. I
pathway.
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is if it's a plant or
Or
something,
a
but there's this
creature,
light. There's
something.
this light source emanating from the thing that she's holding that basically allows it to open. But when they're going through, when they're crossing through, she ends up like looking at, I think, a branch that's like cut off, and then when she goes in closer, you know, through her fascination, she decides to stay in there when Sam's, you know,
Got kicked out.
yeah, he makes it across the other way, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And she ends up seeing this like it's almost like this toad-like little creature, and you see the process of birth, rebirth, and like growth, and it's all happening like in real time, but it's like a time lapse. But it's basically like you know giving it's planting the seeds that this thing can live. And I thought it was like, again, it was one of those moments where like it just goes to show like so much detail that goes into this world. The
I
world
want to
of
describe this whole process from my
Yeah,
perspective.
you gotta describe it better because
It
I'm literally just
it's honestly anything in this show is very hard to describe with words, basically.
it is,
But
yeah,
basically the where you the bits, the wall structure, whatever, it's like a cylinder got cut off, but it got a blossom. There's a flower opening, and then all of a sudden there's seeds coming out, floating in the middle of the above the flower in the sky. They're illuminating, and then the flower in the inner side of the flower, and they open it again. There's a little creature. This creature woke up, and he did then he pops another thing into the flower's socket, and that's basically his destiny, and his only job to do is to wake up. And then he finished this job, like he's struggling, and then he lied down and he died, and he's buried by the flower, and the flower
yeah,
resets its own seeds, and it started a new cycle of the life. And basically that's like you seeing the birth, living, complete his job and die in like matter of seconds. And there's like
yeah,
whole orchestra playing in the background.
yeah.
I was like, that's just
And
crazy.
that could very much just symbolize every living thing that exists.
Yeah.
The job that it has to do is give birth, procreate, die. You know,
Yeah.
it's literally the stages of life. And I think, like, yeah, it was such a beautiful sequence. She herself couldn't describe it to Sam. When Sam,
Yeah, when she's out, yeah.
yeah, and there's another scene towards the end, which is kind of like a time lapse. It's a scene that sort of it's when Levi biologically is born again,
Hmm.
thanks to the
The fungi.
environment and the fungi that assembles it again, mutates it. But you see all these other creatures in a sort of loop, and they're all different and they're all changing.
Hmm.
I don't know if you remember the scene, but it's almost like a time lapse, but with all the different creatures that you've seen throughout the show in rapid, like 30-second loop.
Oh yes,
Um,
yeah, I remember that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very dreamy. It's very like
yeah, it's
a
very
quick
dreamy.
sequence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very dreamy, but I love that. I love all that detail. I loved, how much emphasis went behind that, because again, it's moments like this that kind of take you out of the story but put you more into the world that it's set in. And I think, like, quite often, world being too obsessed with world building can, sometimes get into the way of, like, the storytelling. But in this case, it's like literally the living and breathing thing for the story is that world building.
Yeah.
Without it, it's a very boring story. Who wants to see a story about just, it's like trying to get from point A to point B, like you mentioned.
Hmm.
There's always
That's it.
some
Get to the
conflict.
ship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's all these things that make it very memorable and profound at moments. Like, I guess we can talk about, like, the structure of it. So it is 12 episodes, 20 to 25 minutes per episode. I must say, the way the show is paced, it was not an easy watch to binge. It was quite a heavy
No.
watch. It was quite a heavy watch. It almost, kind of reminded me of, like, watching Apocalypse Now. I don't know.
If you watch it in one go, yes.
If you watch it in one go, yeah. I don't know if you watched it, Apocalypse Now.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
probably
I
must have
watched it
seen
in
it.
one go. I watched it in one go. I was
It's a trek. It's a trek.
I
I can.
remember
I've
watching
lost.
that. Yeah, I remember watching that as a kid, but I couldn't understand anything until
I've lost.
yeah.
I've lost count of the number of times I may have, like, started watching that film and
Uh-huh.
failing to finish it until the one time I forced myself to go watch it when it was remastered and it was, like, on IMAX, and I was like, I have to see this in IMAX because it will be an incredible experience. And that's when I got to, like, actually, because I always remember getting just to the third act and then
Mm.
for some reason not being able to, like, finish the rest of the movie. But that's kind of like what this felt like. It really felt like that sort of, you know, uh,
There's too much information in every
yeah,
episode. There's just so much going on. They're just like
there's a lot going on.
every minute is just something new, a new creature, a new plant is being attacked. You're trying to get there, and it's complicated operations.
Every frame uh of this show where the humans aren't there can be a painting
Oh yeah,
because
absolutely.
it's that beautiful, you know. There's so
It's so
many.
good. It's so good. Art style, so good.
What do you think
Um,
of it? Because you worked in, you've done 3D animation, you've done, animation. You have knowledge of animation and visual effects. What do you think of, like, the technical? What do you think of the technical elements of the
um,
way that they managed to animate this? Because clearly it started off as hand drawn, but the
yeah.
decision to make it, you know, the way it
It's
is.
it's definitely a lot. I'd say in this show is a lot of it is hand drawn. Is it like that's for sure? Like, but not everything. I can see it's a lot of the stuff are made in 3D, like the bike and even Levi, and a lot of
Yeah,
hand like traced, like 3D first and then hand traced it. Really appreciate the effort. Like you can see that I was like but a lot of environments. Yeah, it's a mixture of 3D and 2D, and because you cannot ever get that accurate from different angles unless you have 3D references to build it first, and then but that doesn't really matter to me because most of the time I'm just shocked by the design and the setting, the
yeah.
layout of everything,
It's
and
almost
especially
like
the
it's so beautiful that you can't stop watching and looking at it, but at the same time, it terrifies you.
yeah,
It's like
it's
watching
it's it's in
a
between,
horror
yeah.
nature documentary.
Yeah, but the color really helped because they have this one tone color per frame. Basically, have like a if you have a blue tone, and it will. if everything will be tinted with blue in a certain extent. That's why it's the harmony with the framing, everything in that like one frame is so, you know, it's so cozy. You kind of give you that cozy feeling because the color tones are very, very, very nice. Give you like very unified tone, and I think that's and also the color palette's very specific on every shot. I think that it's very like those like a color American comics I used to read when I was a kid. That reminds me a lot of that. Like very beautifully hand drawn American.
Striking
Yeah,
colors for sure. I mean,
yeah. That I think that's just
they
inherited
pop.
like
They really
typical.
pop.
Yeah, a typical American comic book style. Very
You know, in
80s,
many
very
ways,
80s
like
like.
I must say, like I was surprised this was like an American made production
Hmm.
because I really thought this was European for some reason. I don't know
It's not
why.
very typical. No, exactly. It's not very typical.
It's not very typical. And I remember we reviewed another movie. It was a French animated science fiction movie called Mars Express, and it kind of has like a similar like animation style to that, and it reminded me a lot of like Mars Express in a way. Not exactly the same thing, obviously, but like the similarities of like again a mature adult science fiction animated movie. Here in this case it's a TV show, but like again it's like, yeah, it kind of tells you that we're capable of doing this. A lot of what we review is like we've reviewed a lot of like anime. I mean, John's a big anime fan, obviously.
Mhm.
We've spoken about like how anime's changed and evolved, but I think there is an appetite for adult animation, which is like 2D or 3D, with stories that are mature as this, like with very deep themes that I think, you know, can be as good as a movie. This
Well,
could be as good
absolutely.
as it could be as good as a movie. I don't think a movie would ever have the budget or the resources. It will be very difficult to do, but
I don't
it will
even
be
think it
very
will be
easy to
as
fuck
good.
up. It will
Yeah,
be
yeah. I
very
don't
easy
think.
to fuck up. It will be very easy to fuck up, like you said.
I
Like I agree.
Yeah, yeah. No, it will be disgusting. It's like because all the like, oh my God, if you try to model the thing in 3D or build a set
Yeah, it would look
in
jarring. It would just like,
every scene will look disgusting. It'll be like
yeah.
I would probably feel like physically ill unless you make
Yeah.
like more Avatar.
So
Avatar is like
visceral. Yeah. It will be
yeah.
too visceral. It will be too
Hmm.
visceral. Because another thing that kind of like unsettled me was how like brutal the show is in showing you gore and like viscera and like the insides of these creatures, and like
Yeah.
there's so many things that get killed and stabbed and cut open, and it's like, again, it just goes to the themes of like the exploitative nature of humanity, also this primal sort of need to hunt and survive. And yeah, there's so much at display here, but it's like sometimes I felt like I was watching The Revenant. you know
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, yeah. I agree. But the funky like the alien, I think the closest thing that in feature film, I'd say Last of Us and
Oh yeah,
what
the
the
fungi references, I bet.
yeah, 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 and the other one, the closest was a film. My God, it's also a sci-fi film. You recommended it before as well. We watched it. I can't remember what's it called. No, Annihilation.
Annihilation. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, that's actually good. That's a good.
Yes, very, very similar.
Yeah,
Very
ironically, I
similar.
was talking to someone who's watching that over the weekend, and I was telling them, that movie kind of freaks me out sometimes, uh,
But
because of
this
the
this actually Annihilation came after the short film of Scavenger.
yeah.
So
Annihilation came
mm,
out in 2018, if I'm not
18,
mistaken.
8,
Yeah,
2018.
the
So
short film came out a year before.
2 years before.
So are you really making a conspiracy here, saying that a lot of the
I don't
sci-fi shit
know.
been ripped off from this one short film?
Pretty sure it's not because I think what's it called? Last of Us is earlier, isn't it? What is
Was it?
Last of Us?
The game came out
Did
in,
the game Last of
I
Us?
think it was 2017. Last of
Well, the,
Us.
the game production like lasts like 5 years or something. So, well, it's just definitely not. I'm pretty sure they're all inspired by something else and make sure of this and that.
Everything, yeah, everything.
Yeah, and there's no
Last of
like
Us. I'm sure the game. I'm pretty sure the game came out in 2015,
no. It says
2013, 2013.
13 June
Yeah.
2013. Yeah, yeah,
I remember. Actually, I remember playing it on PlayStation 4.
yeah. It's got
Yeah.
that, and also Alien, of course. Like you have all the Alien films
Yeah, Alien.
way
That
back
that was
then.
probably like the first. Like that's where I said like it wasn't groundbreaking. You could just like I was just thinking about Alien. I don't know if you've seen Alien Covenant.
Yeah,
I was
I
thinking,
have.
oh,
I
well,
have.
this is. There's
Yeah,
one scene. There's one scene where a creature literally like a face hugger
yeah.
leaps onto one of the characters' face.
Charlie,
Charlie, yeah,
the
the
guy
poor
that
guy who
woke
gets
up.
yeah, and just gets brutally fucking murdered until he gets his head snapped by the creature hollow. But it's like also, there's other things that I was like weirded out by. Like in one of the earlier episodes, you see Sam and Ursula. They sort of like go underground, but they know that they put these like weird. There's this weird creature with which
His
goes
face
through.
mask.
Yeah, it's face mask. But the thing goes through their nostrils. It's so fucking gnarly and icky. Um, and I was just thinking, how do they even know? Like, why would these
Yeah,
guys
that was
fuck
my
around?
question.
Like,
That was my question.
why would they fuck around with like stuff like that? Who knows like what infection, what diseases exist? Why do they not have like those, suits that they wear? I mean, I get that it's a perhaps inhabitable planet with perfect like air and temperature, but still, like, I was just thinking from
Um,
like a scientific point of view, like, where does it make any rational sense to like not
okay. I
fucking,
have a say in this because I actually contemplated on this. I actually thought about this for many days after I watched this. I was like, how do they know that in the first place, right? It's like
even though
somebody
it's meant to be said months after they landed. So
exactly, but then they have to try everything, and then there's an opportunity. There's a high chance they try something, they die. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
you must have a large amount of population to try 90% of the things, and you conclude, oh, you eat this thing, you don't die. And you eat that thing, you definitely die. And if
Are
you
you
touch
gonna
that,
risk that when you're just
exactly,
two people? Like,
exactly. So, but then just rewatched the 7 minutes, sorry, 8 minutes animation, the short animation, and I have to explore for you to explain why they might know this in the first place, because you can find clues in that short series. So that's just my theory. So basically, they do all this from grab this creature's egg, grab this creature's bowl, and they squeeze out a poo, and they squeeze out the poo, and then you get another thing to eat it, and eat another thing to lure another creature out. A creature out will trigger another creature to become visible. The creature eats another creature, and then they poop out a giant water bowl. I don't know how to describe it. Egg, and then these two, Ursula, Ursula and Sam, they pop their head into that thing, the water bowl or egg, and they start to hallucinate. And then basically they make themselves. Once they put their heads in that little egg thing, and they start to hallucinate, they were in the dream. They were back. They travel back to Brooklyn, and they're on the street. Basically,
are you
the few.
making this up?
No, I'm not. Just watch the whole thing. Just watch that. That's all in 7 minutes. Okay, or just going.
That's an awful lot of detail to pack in
But
for 7 minutes.
that's why I said watch 7 minutes, so you feel like watch something in
Because
an
it,
hour.
it, it really sounded like you were making this shit up and you were
No,
trolling.
I'm not. I'm not. But let me finish. But I basically spoiled the whole. But it doesn't matter. You can watch it again. It's only 7 minutes.
It
But
doesn't
then
matter.
they traveled back to Brooklyn. That few seconds. But that's what they want. Basically, they done all that just to get some drug. They can fucking hallucinate. And that's all this short series about, because they miss Earth, and then they just want to get it back. They want some experience. Because they know they cannot travel back to Earth. They just want to experience their old life again. Basically, that's what they wanted to go through all that trouble just to live in that few second. So my
Just to feel
conclusion
what it's
is
like to be back there.
exactly that's the whole process of getting there.
Yeah.
So what I think is there's a similar process to get there. They don't know what is safe or not, but they run into similar things. But the similar thing to give them the experience, basically provide them the knowledge in the first place. Okay, if you do this, do that, basically just they pop their heads into this, but that not the experience, not their memory, not the Brooklyn memory, but giving them the the guide, the menu of the survival menu on the planet. Basically,
Yeah.
I think they got the knowledge through some experience like that in that form, rather than they have to try everything. That's my theory.
I mean, look, I think, look, they're. It's also possible that they're very, obviously, very intelligent people,
Hmm.
qualified, because they wouldn't be in a spaceship in the middle of nowhere. They weren't. So I do think that they're quick learners, and there is a like an element of adapting to the environment. But there's also like other shit that you see. Like, granted, they may be tripping balls and all whatnot. But there's like other things like fucking around, wanting to touch something, and like smelling something, or like I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just stuff you would. I don't know. Like, either it's like fuck it, like it is what it is, or like, I don't know what's going on here, because this is not normal. Like, you wouldn't, I wouldn't want to do that. I would be very, very shit scared to touch
Mm.
anything, because you just don't know what could happen. In fact, this goes to that scene where Ozzy gets a skin infection because of
Oh
these like
yeah,
weird
the
puffy
floating
uh
balls.
balls attached to his skin.
Yeah.
And then I was looking at, like, it gets pretty bad, and you see that her skin's like almost like being peeled off,
Hmm.
until she finds this water, which
Pool.
is
I don't know.
a pool of water with these weird fish like creatures that like basically heal you by
Yeah.
nibbling away on your skin. And it's like she's just miraculously recovered from whatever that infection was. At one point, I was thinking, well, fuck, next thing you know, she might just develop some other sort of, infection. luckily,
Yeah.
luckily, it was actually a cure. It was actually, but it just goes to show that,
It
I don't
actually
know.
got me scared many times because she's like, oh, this god, can heal me, and then you see those giant tanks. It's like bigger ones. Okay, let's just go, and you know exactly what she's thinking. Okay, she's gonna dive, swim,
Yeah,
and once she's
no,
in, you see those giant fish coming at her. I was like, oh shit, she's gonna be got eaten.
yeah,
No,
she's gonna
they're
get
not.
like.
No, they're just gonna eat.
Yeah, at
The,
one point, at one point, I thought like I thought the show would do this thing where they always there's always this tendency of like, oh, let's make the AI the bad, the worst character,
Mhm.
the
Oh
evil
yeah,
character.
I thought as well.
I
Yeah,
thought,
yeah, at
yeah,
some point.
it's like, we've seen this a lot. It was like, oh, they're gonna, Levi might just become like, might think it's a
Yeah,
fucking god,
evil.
and
Yeah.
yeah, it might just like, try to kill. But it actually kind of subverted my expectations. I didn't see that turn coming. The fact that it became, that's why I said it has one of the best arcs in the show. I think it was a nice full circle moment that it ends up saving Ozzy in the end from Hollow.
Hmm.
Even though, again, Hollow should have just easily killed
Hmm.
Ozzy. It's this is one thing I hate about fucking, you see this shit in all these commercial movies where they get the bad guy at the end who can easily just, I can just kill you and get on
No,
with
they
it,
didn't. No.
but I'll just waste 5 fucking minutes aura farming, or like saying some stupid shit, and giving the good guy just enough time to, like,
No. Get
be
rescued.
rescued or like come
Yeah.
up with like it's like James Bond basically. He
Yeah.
always gets out. He always manages a way out of any prickly situation.
A bit
But I did
cringe. Yeah.
bit cringe, but I did appreciate how, you know, I what I liked was like I thought because you see how crazy Hollow becomes as a creature, I thought that
Hmm.
Hollow would just fucking be brutally killed.
Hmm.
But I was quite impressed by the fact that it doesn't get killed. It actually ends up, reverting back to its original form
The baby
and
form.
just
Yeah.
a baby form, and it just goes back to its environment once it's like separated from Cayman. You know,
Yeah, the
um,
same way as I mean, this is a lot of references to the Christianity. Like here is about forgiveness. The
yeah,
same was happening with. So the first sign you see is when Hollow use whatever the skill that is, you make the materials
telekinesis.
float. Tele-
Oh yeah, the black goo that comes out of
no,
its face,
no. So
mouth.
basically, he can use his mind to control matters. Basically, he can make things float.
Telekinesis. Yeah,
Telekinesis. Basically,
yeah.
the Hello grabbed Ozzy, and she's like floating in the sky as a cross, as Jesus, as like There's one scene she's like floating with hands, like flat, like on the side, and she's like standing as someone on the cross, like got crucified. And then she's like, as the point, it's like that's very like typical like Christianity reference. And then
Oh,
you
okay.
yeah, there's a scene like she's like floating as just like Jesus, and then he got killed. He's not dead. He's got reborn-ish or forgiven. Same with Cayman. He was forgiven and he was allowed in to be one of
I
them.
mean, Hollow tries to basically corrupt or consume Levi, the biological Levi who is mutated. But Levi has this sort of, again, it's this, again, this sort of a power
Yeah,
where it's able to, stop and reverse the creature from what it is. And in doing so, also get Cayman out of it because Cayman's literally living inside it.
which is mercy,
And
right? It's like,
yeah, it is mercy. It is mercy.
yeah.
And I think it is a reference to, again, like I mentioned, like it could just be an evil god, like, that could have easily
Hmm.
been the character of Levi who would just become sentient and think, "Oh, I am a god." But in the end, it
Invincible. Hmm.
becomes it becomes a god, a type of a god who ends up
Hmm.
actually creating a new life form. It creates new Levi's, mini Levi's,
Which is
and like,
crazy. And then
yeah,
where
starts
so
harvesting agriculture, and
but the thing is, Levi with the fungi cool. It's actually connected to the entire planet because I'm not sure you notice all the time lapse that happens, all the creature when the creature dies, when they corrupt.
yeah,
There's
there's a
always a
flower.
flower.
There's
Yeah,
always a flower. Yeah,
there's always a flower. And
yeah.
then
Maybe Levi is the only thing that is actually capable of like taking this power of the flower to the next level. Because
that reminds me of Arcane second season a lot. I'm not sure why. It's got some similarity to it. Just- Also, especially with the ending, with when Levi kills Hollow, like whatever the giant form of Hollow, and then
yeah,
it's just light.
erupted hollow.
This light, this beam coming off of him, like, and then just like cover the entire thing, and it kind of melts it. Yeah, I mean it's just not something I would expect. There's nothing I was expecting, so which is very very cool.
It was. It was. I mean, I guess we didn't. I guess we didn't touch upon like. Was there anything in the? We can go towards the end, but was there anything in
Mhm.
the middle that you wanted to talk about, or that you felt was worth mentioning that you can think of from your notes?
There's just so much in the middle. And then
Yeah,
I think we
there is
we
a
cover
lot.
we covered the good bits, but there's just dude, there's so much in the middle, man. Is
There's
that
so many
every
layers. There's so many layers.
every bit you can actually cut into small sequences. Every bit is a small story on its own. How they
It
survive and
is, yeah, yeah.
how they trap, how they survive, how they trap, how they survive. You know,
Look,
it's like a
if
mini
I'm
stories.
if I'm one of the create if I'm a creator like them, if I'm making this, my intention will be the same thing. Pack
Hmm.
as much story as I can in every scene and every frame, you
Hmm.
know, to make the viewer think, what's the story behind that? Because there's something behind everything, you know.
Hmm.
The
Exactly.
the the woman you get that. You kind of get that. You know, the woman who they end up meeting who's actually, controlled by that parasite. You kind of get to see the story of them as well. She was once with her husband or partner
Hmm.
who was the person who got corrupted by that parasite, infected by that parasite, and then she got like affected by it. You see all these other creatures like the monkeys in in that crystal infested river. Like there's so many other moments where you're looking at it and it's like, what's the story behind that? What's this? There's something. There's so much like subtext. There's so much like frame packed with texture.
Hmm.
You can't help but notice that there's something behind. Like you could spend, like you said, we could easily end up going any route with it. And that's the beauty of like how much depth that goes behind designing a world like that. And giving it like as much detail as you can.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I'm happy with most part of the middle and the arcs and when they're stuck, the struggle, the conflicts, the confrontations
We
and
didn't talk
everything.
about the three looters who show up.
Yes, I'm about to say I'm about to say I'm actually about to mention that's the only bit about the series that I'm not very happy with. I feel
Yeah,
like I
that
feel
was the
three of
weakest
them.
storyline.
Yeah, I feel they're a bit tagged on, don't you think?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I was most checked out from the show, especially in the middle. So don't get me wrong. When they show up, I was very intrigued. I was
Mm-hmm.
very like interested. I was like, okay, so it's not like there aren't people who are aware of this planet and can access it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it got me really intrigued. But then it kind of once you kind of see like what happens and what they're trying to do, and especially the characters like Terrence, Chris, and Barry, they just don't do enough for me. They come across as very like,
Annoying
um,
characters, really annoying
yeah,
characters.
like Chris for
Very.
me, like that whole betrayal turn, and that whole like again conflict with Ozzy. I saw that a
Hmm.
mile away. I was not
Hmm.
surprised. I was expecting it at some point.
Hmm.
I thought it was again they were just like delaying it by showing
Yeah,
us the journey to the Demir.
I think
Um,
this series can be cut to 9 episodes. You don't need 12.
that's what I thought at first. I felt like as much as there's a lot of like depth with the
Hmm.
way like they do a lot with 12 episodes, but I do feel like pacing is already like on the slower end,
Hmm.
right?
I agree.
And
I
then
agree.
to add another storyline that feels like it's deviating, and the characters aren't that compelling. It kind of makes you feel like like
I
you
I
could get
I
by
I
without this.
I get that because you from because I didn't get it until at very end. You see the escape pod or the shuttle is
Yeah.
the 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 dying Chris on the floor and then it meets up this group of very mysterious people captured.
What the fuck
Um,
was that?
yeah, what the fuck was
That's
that? And
where
then
that's where I was like, what? The
I think that's
show
like
goes.
that was a cliffhanger ending. That's a thing they want to get the audience hooked. I think that's because they want that scene to be in the end, so they
Yeah, yeah. I
want
mean,
to
it's
make second
it's
season,
yeah,
and then
I get that. That's not it's not very uncommon for shows to do that. To add like a whole twist or cliffhanger in the end, or reveal something new, completely different. In
hmm.
fact, I quite like the idea of a technocratic religion or religious group. Uh,
Hmm.
And I think that the fact that, one of Levi's offsprings are in that ship is very interesting, can lead to some very interesting future storytelling, and that just goes to show like there's so much more. Like we've got like this angle. If you watch this show, as if it doesn't have a second season, it works as a mini series just fine. As a
Yeah.
mini series, there's no like, it's a one-off thing, one-off story. Again, it tells you all these themes of like, you know the best and the worst of humanity, the cosmos, the exploitative nature, the dangers of nature, but the beauty of nature. But now you add this like technocratic context to it, and this theme of like, there's a different group of people that exist.
Mm.
You know, it could be very interesting. Like there's a lot more that I'm sure. Obviously, now that you tell me, and now that you mention that the creators do have a plan for season two, I'm very optimistic. I think that there's a lot of stuff they can explore. They can make this more than just what we get to see in this show, which is a survival story in a way. It could end up becoming even more deeper. In fact, I really like that reference in the end. I don't know if it's a reference, intentional or not, but there's this one scene. Again, it's like a hyperlapse, and you see all these colors in the sky, in the dark sky, in the galaxy. It
Mhm.
reminded me of that scene from 2001 towards the end, where the human character, I forgot his name, goes into like a trance state, in the end of the film before becoming the alien baby. And I looked at that scene. I was like, wow, this is like this reminds me of like, it feels like a nod to 2001. I don't know if it is like intentional or not, but it was very like, again, it kind of felt like the show was hinting that there's more that they want to do with it than just, tell the story of this planet and what
Oh,
the
a hundred
humans have to
percent,
go through.
hundred
Um,
percent. Yeah.
I like the fact that in the end, the humans and the colony that survive, who get sort of revived, have to adapt and live in this planet, and they don't get rescued, or they don't get rescued yet. I really like that because it shows, again, going back to that whole Greek theme of like, once you eat the forbidden fruit,
Hmm.
it's never going to be the same. And, you know, it's almost like they have to learn to adapt and live this new life in this new world, which they have to now call their home. But they're embracing it, and I think that's like, goes to show, like, I think one of the best things about humanity is its ability to like
Adapt.
adapt
Yeah.
and embrace change more than anything. Because, if you don't embrace change, you die, you know, because things always change. So I really liked the fact that they did that, and obviously it's left pretty open ended whether the group will survive long or not. You get to see like Ursula, Ozzy, Cayman all survive, all live in this community now of like the colony and the ship and the
Hmm.
Demeter, or the ones that survived. But I like that subversion because you would have expected them to
To
maybe
get
find a
out.
way out, get out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. What was the whole purpose? Like the point A to point B, the
yeah.
end they want. It was to get out to get out of the
And
planet. You know.
it also made me think like sometimes what you think is the best for you in that given moment is perhaps not the best for you, because sometimes what you get is the best for you, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. hundred
Because
percent agree.
I don't know if this sounds too vague, but it's like you can always think about wanting something different, but you don't realize if it'll actually be good for you if you have it. And in the end, what you go through is where you need to be at that point in your life. Like sometimes that is how it is. And I think these guys I think they are where they need to be, which is in this planet, and they're embracing and living in this community. And who knows what like the future holds for them? They could be, obviously more stories to come. But like personally, I like that bit of the ending. I don't know what was your like opinions on the way it ends.
It's just, yeah, I mean, I don't mind the ending.
Like
It's just,
I'm not all that I'm not all that high about like the Hollywood ending stuff of like, oh, we need to have like, make it like an alien movie where this creature is the big antagonist and the crew has to like fight it and survive. Like that bit didn't really do anything for me. It was more like the aftermath.
it's just, I'm a bit worried that it can get a bit cliche. If they ever make a second season, I'm not sure whether they're actually gonna make it, because there's just some studios that say, "Oh, we're gonna make our own version," or they're gonna continue. They end up not completing it. I don't know. Like if they ever make it, I'm just worried that they they might just make a horrible, just a you know a common plot line. There's
Watered down.
another
Yeah.
colony invade a planet, and they're trying to protect the locals, just like Avatar. Oh my God, it gets really
Dangerous game to
cringe.
play. Yeah.
Exactly, it's a dangerous game to play. What I want to see. I'm not sure you've seen this sci-fi TV series called The Expanse.
Yeah, yeah.
I want.
I read a lot about comparisons to the Expanse with this
I
show.
want to I want to see that, like, at the if you're talking about like alien civilization. There also, like, there's one scene, the when Hollow disassemble that, basically torn Levi apart, and they floating in the sky, and then they throw away all the back to the canyon. And that scene,
Yeah.
they have the exact same scene in the Expanse series. So basically, it's like a it's you they're find this alien planet, and they send a probe in. They send two, three probes in. There's no response. There's nothing going on. And they're curious, okay, you know what? We need people down there to see what's actually going on with this alien planet, because that planet is definitely conscious. So they send a shuttle with 8 crews people in it. It's like a disc thing, a landing pod, all the way down to the planet. And then when they're approaching the planet's atmosphere, this entire shuttle got disassembled in a perfect symmetrical way, and all the bolts parts all lined up in a perfect circle, and then they all just as a beautiful image, and then everyone just got shredded into pieces. I was like, but it's beautifully shredded, you know beautifully destroyed, but all the crew died. But it's just like that. You said you just send something into, if you just unknown, and it's just so much like, it's terrifying, but it's beautiful. That's like, it reminds me so much of that. And also the philosophy, and I don't know, it's good. I think it's interesting to see something like Expanse. I can't remember how he ends in the later series, but I think I want to see more of that shit in the following, you know
Yeah,
um
no,
Scavenger
I
seasons.
agree. I personally haven't watched The Expanse, but I've read a lot about it, especially when I was, reading about this and some of the comparisons that were being made. But, they really, if they can, like, my concern is if they do make another season, I hope that they can like maintain the quality if they
Hmm.
do still have the resources to do so. I don't know, with the what the situation would be with distribution, but like if they can maintain that quality and give it the same, you know, attention and depth that they gave the first season, then I'm sure they're capable of like doing something very inventive with it. My concern is if they're like, they make another season, but they don't put in enough time, or they don't, have the resources to make it good. It'll just end up becoming a cheaper version of the original, the first
Yeah,
season.
that's just something I don't want to see. That I just, like, rather not, like,
Yeah,
what's the
it's
point, right?
moments like that where you're like, you know what? Cult classics exist for a reason.
Hmm.
Sometimes like one-off works are always going to
Better
be
than,
like, yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
things that end up getting multiple seasons or but it's fascinating. I think, we covered as much as we could.
Yeah.
Do you wanna we usually we'll go to final thoughts. Do you wanna give it do you have any final thoughts of the show? You wanna give it
Any
a rating?
final thoughts?
Or is
Yeah,
there
I mean,
anything else you wanted to cover about like
not
what you
not
felt?
not really. I think it's just more of every person have different, interpretation or experience, and some people think it's bad. I mean, yeah, I don't blame you. Like, it's just not for everyone. Um,
No, it's not.
uh,
It's not.
but it
It's
fascinates
not
me.
for everyone.
Because we had this discussion over about like how stories and how character building should dominate a film or a story itself, and world building always comes secondary. But this film, well, no, sorry, this series tells otherwise. I say, oh, sometimes world building could dominate the whole thing and became the story itself. Like,
Yeah, it's rare.
okay. It's very rare. I've never ever seen anything like this. It's like you see documentaries about like, okay, how cruel the nature is, and this is basically a similar thing. Like, it's using its own world telling you how cruel the law of, you know, not Darwin, like, the rule of things, and it just, you don't understand, but they interconnect. Their ecosystem is very cruel, but it's how everything survives. Everything trying to survive, everything trying to, reproduce, and that's just what it is. And then you should have fear and you should have respect for the nature, and kind of, it's kind of like a documentary. And then you have the layered story on top. Then there's a human story, the element on top. So even that, it's like, if you like you said, if you remove the world building from this thing, the story, it's probably shit. Probably, I don't know. It's a
Yeah.
good story, but not stunning. I'd say it's not stunningly
I don't
good.
think
But
I don't think it's I don't think the story is its strong suit or the most memorable thing about it. The most memorable thing about it is like the world it creates and how that affects the story. But it
exactly,
does so by being dominant, but it actually works in making the story more memorable than say, you know, having another story where the world is just there's so much detail but there's
hmm
not enough substance. I think in the story, but I think that the story has just enough to keep it going. But thanks to so much detail, it gets even better. It's even more complemented and even a more richer experience to consume. It's
yeah.
almost like a fucking drug. It's
I,
like
I
a
read like
hallucinogenic drug.
I know. I read so many people, like, they're just saying, okay, this should be a game. This, you have to make this into a game or something. It's like, yeah, I think you should, but it would be interesting, very interesting. But
Can I just also point out the sound design in this show was
oh,
also very good.
I
Uh,
know. So
I
it's
really
yeah,
wonder like to what extent they went to capture all those sounds, the creatures, all the different
oh
the nature, the environment, and even the soundtrack was very beautiful. So the soundtrack that plays during Sam's death in his final moments, I think it was so poetic that he ends up dying with a view of the Demeter in front of him. The one thing that he wanted to get back to the most, kind of reminded me of the ending of Blood Diamond. I don't know if you ever watched that movie.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
You made me watch it.
oh yeah, I did. Okay, well, yeah, 'cause this guy's obsessed with this pink diamond,
Yeah,
but in the end, he decides that nah, the best thing is I give it to these people and they can survive and change their life. And that's what he does. He realizes that if he had to live, he would just end up infecting Ursula or anyone else, and it would just be there would be no reverse. It would be irreversible. So he knew that the only right thing he could do was like kill this parasite within him and die. But the soundtrack that plays during that moment was very like it was very profound. It was really beautiful, and the show has some very amazing moments. You know, the bits where like there's this like acid rain scene where there's crystal rain happening and they have to go into this aquatic creature to survive.
Yeah.
All of it is just out of the world. Like this is the shit that you'd have to be high on to come up with. You
Oh
know?
my. Yeah. No,
Uh
I agree. It's
for me, like I think if I had to give some final thoughts, I'd say like yeah, this the art style, the way it blends like surreal beauty with brutal realism is really mesmerizing, and it's like viscerally terrifying one moment, and then the next moment it's like the most vibrant, evoke, beautiful scene you've ever watched, and it's got like inventive creature designs which are like inspired by like real biology. I will say the pacing is deliberate. It's slow, it's not easy to binge on, but it's works in the favor of like unfolding the puzzle of like the environment, and right, letting the environment breathe in without having to rely on like cheap jump scares. That is what I appreciated the most with its pacing, because it could easily just done that cheap horror shit where, oh, let's put jump scare after jump scare and make it like a very alien like commercial, Hollywood story. And this is where the sound design really helps you get immersed into uh, the storytelling, like a fucking nature alien documentary, But
yeah.
there are some flaws. There are some flaws. Like I said, I think the story is very like straightforward. It's the themes that I think are more compelling, and the world building that's more compelling than the actual story itself. The motivation of the characters to get to point A to point B is not what makes this a very like interesting show. It's actually, it's the environment, the ecosystem, the interactions, and all the details along with that experience of these humans and what they go through, bringing out the worst and the best in each other, that makes it interesting. I think it's like very imaginative as a science fiction, and it won the Emmy for best animated series, if I'm not mistaken, in 2024. Yeah, it kind of sometimes reminded me of like Love, Death, Robots as well.
Oh yeah,
It
it's
could
like a
easily,
super long Love Death Robot, like
yeah,
one story, which is
yeah,
I feel
yeah,
very happy. I'm happy to watch something like this, and
for sure.
and I had dreams like because we didn't watch it like in one go. We like watched 2 episodes a day and something like that
Yeah, yeah,
during
yeah,
dinner, and it's upsetting because it's very sort of disturbing shit in it. And I think the most disturbing thing I found, I mean, there's a good disturbing, not bad disturbing, because it actually haunts me at night, and sometimes I had
yeah,
bad dreams
yeah,
about things. It's the not the thing that not the thing you fully unknown. It's the thing like if like Sam got infected and he started behave weird in a weird way. That
yeah.
scares me. That scares me so
Yeah,
much.
that was scary. That was such a scary moment. The episode called "The Nest," where
Yeah,
he, acts in a very erratic way and shows no sign of hunger or strain or tiredness.
yeah,
And yeah, 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 for sure. There's moments like that which are like, unnerving for sure. You feel like Ursula in that scene for sure.
yeah.
We're like, what the fuck is going on?
I know,
You
I
know,
know.
like the amount of times Sam had to go through that shit where you just think he's gonna die or
Yeah,
something brutal's gonna happen, but he somehow there's a twist and he just about makes it. And how ironic it is that he makes it in the end just close enough, but ends up dying. It's like a psychological thriller for sure. I'll give it. I'll give it a 9 out of 10. But what was your? I mean, I will say though, I didn't like some of the other character storylines, like you pointed out,
hmm
um, with the looters or the scavengers. I feel like they could have maybe done a bit more with the themes, rather than trying to like make it into an obstacle course story. But I still think it's a very unique show. I'll give it a 9 out of 10. But if you had to give it a score, what would
I'm
you say?
surprised. I'm surprised. I thought you were gonna be um story wise. I probably won't aim that high, but because, like you said, it's such a unique show, and
Unique
it
because it's one of the few shows that takes its world building and it elevates the story
yeah,
in a good
it,
way.
it's it and it proves it can be done, and I really admire that because it's emerged. And the story is not bad, actually. The story is good. It's not a
Yeah.
bad story. It's a
No, no,
good
no.
story. It's deep. It
Very
got
good
depth
story.
in it too. It's got depth in it too. And then it got great visuals. It got great designs. I definitely give it 9 out of 10. That one point is because the tagged down three characters. That's the only bit I'm not happy with. But the rest, I have no comments, which is just pure masterpiece.
Yeah,
Um,
I hope more people watch it. It's on Netflix now. Thank you though for like recommending me this show because I had absolutely no clue about this show. I don't think I would have ever stumbled across it, maybe if unless until maybe through some hoops and loops. I went down the
yeah,
rabbit hole
I
of
wouldn't
the internet.
either. No, I wouldn't
But
either. And
I guess
yeah,
we
no,
have
my
to
wife
thank
recommended.
Netflix's shitty algorithm, right? Because it kind of
um, no, it's my. I thank my wife. She watched because she watched the short animation before, like many years ago
Oh
when it came
wow.
out.
Okay.
Yeah, so when it came out, it was before the series been made.
That's even
So
more impressive that she'd
yeah,
watch a short animation like that. I mean,
yeah, and she
but
was she's actually into this. Yeah.
that just goes to show, like, that's the power of short filmmaking because, you know, I know there's people who have amazing ideas, right? But when they want to, when you're making a short film, you can't possibly express all those things that you want to, you know. So the best you can do in a short film is give a very small snippet of what you're capable of doing. And if you can
Mm,
do that in a very convincing way, in a very simple way, like you mentioned, the whole motive in that short story, even though I've not watched it and I will, but you told me that the whole motive was Sam and Ursula want to just get that feeling of being back home in Brooklyn,
yep.
right? That
That's
is
it.
it, right?
That's it.
That's the one small need and desire, uh, which they convey, if you say they convey so well and effectively in the story. And that's, good enough for them to, have someone look at this and be like, you know what, we'll back you, make it into a season and, get it. Although it's unfortunate that HBO dropped it, uh, but Netflix picked it up. Let's hope that, this gets to have a second season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's
Right.
been an absolute pleasure. Sorry, this was a long one, but I had a lot of fun nerding out on this show, Scavengers Reign. Thank you so much again, Tao, for joining me. And I hope to have you again soon for future episodes.
Thank you. I can't wait to see John and really appreciate it for inviting me to the show. And yeah,
Well, thank you. And that's goodbye from me.
that's goodbye.